This morning, 6 a.m., my church is 21 days of prayer. I'm praying and allowing God to bring me back to why I'm doing what I'm doing. I never want to be driven by the what. I always want to be driven by the why. But then we've got to get everyone in our organization to do that. That's the great challenging enterprise of leadership.
This is the L3 Leadership Podcast, episode number 180. What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the L3 Leadership Podcast. My name is Doug Smith, and I'm the founder of L3 Leadership. In this episode, you're going to get to hear my lightning round interview with Shawn Lovejoy. Shawn is the founder and CEO of Courage to Lead, a coaching company that coaches leaders through what keeps them up at night. I love that tagline. In this specific episode, you're going to get to hear Shawn talk about some of his favorite books, podcasts, and habits. You'll hear his advice to his 20-year-old self and so much more. And again, you can go back and listen to part one of our interview in episode number 179, and I would highly encourage you to do that. But before we dive into the lightning round, just a few announcements. I want to encourage all of you to become members of L3 Leadership. Our vision here is very simple. We want to connect and develop leaders to help them maximize their potential. And we believe that every leader needs a group of leaders around them that will encourage them, challenge them, and hold them accountable. And that is exactly what we provide here at L3 Leadership. When you become a member, you'll have the ability to join or launch one of our mastermind groups. You'll have access to our community of over 100 leaders, and you'll have access to the tools and resources you need to take your life and leadership to the next level. You can learn more about membership and everything that we offer at l3leadership.org/membership. I also want to thank our sponsor, Alex Landon, who is a full-time realtor at Keller Williams Realty. And if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the Pittsburgh market, Alex is your guy. He's a member and a supporter of L3 Leadership, and he would love the opportunity to connect with you. You can find out more and connect with Alex at pittsburghpropertyshowcase.com. With that being said, let's dive right into the lightning round, and I'll be back at the end with a few announcements. What is a belief or behavior that has changed your life?
Make eye contact and smile. You know, it's another class they don't teach you. You know, just how to be a warm, kind, and gentle, person. I think you asked a question earlier about a lot of these mentors. Like, I took an interest in people, and I was approachable, and I smiled, I made eye contact, I shook hands, I wanted to know about them. I did everything I could to invest in the relationship, to care for them. And, I think it's something we don't know how to do well in general these days. It's all about us. And I hear young leaders say, well, I'm looking at making a move because I'm just not really being poured into, where I'm at. And I'm just looking for somebody to kind of invest into me, and you just hear that first person pronoun in several variations, just a lot of times in a couple of sentences versus, it's not about me. It's not about me. I need to work hard at just caring about people. And if you do, honestly, transparently, you will usually invest into the relationship more than the other person. And of course, you and I know in marriage, I mean, if I wait to be met 50-50, that's a long dance. You know what I'm saying? I just need to be 100%. I just need to be 100% in. Whether I feel like on this day or not, it's all being reciprocated at my perfect standard. I just need to be all in, invested in that relationship. And over time, you earn trust. Over time, you earn, that investment from another person.
That's so good. If you could put a quote on a billboard for everyone to read, what would it say?
Oh, gosh. I would probably say, be mean about the vision. Be mean about the vision. I'm not a big fan of vision statements, that's just on a piece of paper. Most visions get hijacked. Everyone starts with a vision. Few finish with one. It's stay true to the vision. When I handed off the baton of my ministry, I was most proud of three things. I had stayed true to the vision. My wife liked me. And my kids loved the church. Wow. Because I had fought and taken on scars to stay true to the vision.
So I meant to cover this earlier, and I apologize for not. But so you wrote a book called "Be Mean to the Vision." Can you talk about that? Why did you write it? I know you kind of just gave us a little intro to it. But why did you write it, and what's it about?
Yeah, of course I say, in the first few sentences, if you bought this book thinking I'm going to give you a license to be a mean leader, that's not the purpose of this book. And I know some mean leaders. I know some mean pastors. You do too. I'm not talking about that. The word mean, the way we use it most often, has another definition in the dictionary. The word mean implies intent. What I meant to say was, or I meant that as a compliment. So I'm really talking about being intentional about the vision every day. One, I've got to keep the vision alive in me. Vision leaks in me. If I forget why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'll lose my vision. This morning, 6 a.m., my church is 21 days of prayer. I'm praying and allowing God to bring me back to why I'm doing what I'm doing. I never want to be driven by the what. I always want to be driven by the why. But then we've got to get everyone in our organization to do that. That's the great challenging enterprise of leadership. So that whole book was really the culmination of like 10 years of coaching. Wow. Just how to stay true to the vision, how to get the vision, drilled down to every layer of the organization.
That's great. I'll include a link to that in the show notes as well for everyone to check out. We talk a lot about books. What books do you find yourself giving away most often?
Oh, Lord. I would say the one I talk about the most and I encourage people to read, it's Required Reading for Every New Hire by Dave Ramsey. He told me about this book 10 years ago. I'd never heard of it, called Rhinoceros Success. You've probably read it. Yeah. But the whole base of the book is, here's how you be successful in life. You have 2-inch thick skin and you wake up every day just ready to charge. That's all you got to do in life. And I really think there's a lot of truth to that. And it really, dovetails into what I said earlier about not quitting and not taking things so personal and not withdrawing, and playing the role of a victim, whatever. Just have thicker skin and get up and charge again. And you'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Have you listened to the audiobook of that?
No, I have not.
You have. Yeah. It's worth listening to. The author reads it and he is very energetic.
That's great. That's a good tip.
Yeah, I took a few of our mastermind group leaders through it, and it was so funny. Either people absolutely hated the book and couldn't take, they thought it was too cheesy, or the people loved it and got rhino cufflinks and paintings of rhinos in their house. So it's a fantastic book.
I love it. Yeah, big fan.
That's great. What podcasts do you find yourself listening to these days if you listen?
Yeah, so two of my great friends, I listen to religiously, Carey Nieuwhof, the Carey Nieuwhof Leadership Podcast. What is he at 5 million downloads now?
He's everywhere.
And then Chris Brown's True Stewardship. He's also a very close personal friend of mine. He's up to cajillion, downloads there at Dave Ramsey, the team at Dave Ramsey. They're two of my favorite. Donald Miller's Story Brand Marketing Podcast is brilliant. I don't know Donald personally, but it's a brilliant, brilliant podcast.
I love
Those are a few of my favorites.
All fantastic. What are your favorite questions to ask leaders? When you spend time with the Andy Stanleys of the world, what do you find yourself asking?
That's how I got the gold out of Craig Rochelle. What's your number one priority this year? I think it was Ed Young, who I also got to spend some time with, Ed Young Jr. in the early years of his ministry. He said, if you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. So it is just really trying to ask questions and getting to know people. How are you doing? I had a famous leader tell me this a few months ago that what, sort of galvanized our relationship. When our first conversation, I said, how are you doing? And then before he could answer, I said, no, really, really, how are you doing? I want you to know I'm a safe person and I care. And if you're going to invest into my life, I want to invest into yours, at least by praying for you. So it stays with me. Tell me how you're doing, really. And that I've had some amazing conversations on the heels of that kind of dialogue. Oh, okay. Now that we've established this is a safe person and he really gives a hoot, I might actually talk to him about what's on my heart and what I'm dreaming about.
Well, I have to ask you now, if you don't mind, what's your number one priority this year?
It's to grow in my own personal development as a leader. I think, as we grow and we find success, our tendency is to lean upon our past successes and experience. I want to grow in knowledge and wisdom this year. So I usually read about 26 books, every year. I've doubled that. This year I want to read 52 books, which is a book a week, which is aggressive.
Yeah.
But a few weeks in, as of the recording of this podcast, I'm on pace.
Wow.
Are
you a paper book guy or audio or both?
I'm Kindle, 100%.
Kindle, okay.
Yeah. I've ordered 2 books that I could not find, digitally, that are a little bit older books, but I'm pretty much 100% Kindle.
Wow. That's awesome. Do you have any unusual habits, disciplines, or routines that help you be effective that are outside of the ordinary of what most leaders mention?
I coach about this, but I tell leaders all the time, rob your sleep instead of rob your family. So I would rather get up, if I've got let's just be honest, success is not a 40-hour work week. It's not, so how do you do it without killing your family? I'd always rather get up earlier and spend my time alone with God, start working earlier and be done earlier, like I alluded to with Craig. Then I had take it into 6, 7, take my laptop home, take my laptop to bed with me like some leaders do, all that hogwash. That's really good for the intimacy in your marriage to take your laptop to bed with you. You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather rob my sleep than rob my family, and I try to roll that way. So if I'm in an intense season, I don't believe in balance. I don't even think balance is biblical or possible. It's more rhythm, intensity followed by rest, intensity followed by rest. But in those intense seasons, I'd rather get up early and go, but still shut down at 5:00 and go be with my family.
That's good. What's the best purchase you've made in the past year for $100 or less?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question. For $100 or less, what's the best purchase I've made? I'm trying to think. Let me pass on that one. I'll come back. I'll come back and surprise you in a moment with that one.
Let's see, if you can go back to your 20-year-old self and have coffee with him, what would you say?
Patience. Patience, the P word.
That's good. We
tend to overestimate what we can do in a short period of time, underestimate what we can do in a long period of time. I tell leaders in their 20s and 30s all the time, it's much more about what God wants to do in you right now than through you. I know you want to change the world. When you get 40, you might be ready. Until then, just let God work in you and on you.
That's awesome. And one day, looking back on your life, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be?
Healthy. I was healthy. I was healthy relationally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. That there wasn't a gap between who I claimed to be and what I was. There wasn't a difference in the Shawn Lovejoy on stage and the one who in person backstage, whatever. It was a very healthy leader, just as he was.
I love that. Is there anything else that you're working on that you're excited about that you can share with the audience, or other ways they can connect with you that you would?
Sure. Yeah, it might even be out by the time of this recording, but we're working on an online assessment at gearsofgrowth.com. If you go there today, it's not live yet, but it's going to allow people to assess their organization along those 3 gears of growth: culture, team, and systems. We're really excited about that. We've been using that for years in our initial conversations with our clients, but pretty soon anybody's going to be able to go out there across the world and assess their own organization in those 3 complementary gears. So we're really excited about that coming up this year. Gearsofgrowth.com. It's free. It's free.
Awesome. I'll include a link to that as well, everything you talked about. And that's it for my question. So I'll just leave it open-ended again. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, man. Just respect what you do, and we're of the same heart, and appreciate your heart for leaders.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to our lightning round interview with Shawn Lovejoy. You can find ways to connect with Shawn and links to everything that we discussed in our show notes at l3leadership.org/episode 180. Again, you can also go back and listen to part 1 of our interview in episode 179. And if you enjoyed this, I promise you'll enjoy that. It was fantastic. So go back and listen to that as soon as you get a chance. I want to thank our sponsor, Henny Jewelers. They're a jeweler owned by my friend and mentor, John Henny. And my wife, Laura, and I got our engagement and wedding rings through Henny Jewelers, and we just think they're an incredible company. Not only do they have great jewelry, but they also invest in people. They give every engaged couple a book to help them prepare for their marriage. And John has personally been investing in me as a leader, a dad, and a husband now for years. So if you're in need of a good jeweler, check out hennyjewelers.com. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean the world to us if you would subscribe and leave a rating and review on iTunes and help us spread the word and share on social media. It really does help us get the visibility of this podcast out, so thank you so much. And thanks for being a listener. I never take one of you for granted. And lastly, if you want to stay up to date with everything we're doing here at L3 Leadership, you can simply sign up for our email list at l3leadership.org. As always, I like to end with a quote, and I'll quote Craig Groeschel today. He said this. He said, "Don't give up, press on. Today's sacrifices lead to tomorrow's accomplishments. Thanks for listening and being a part of L3 Leadership. Laura and I appreciate you so much, and we'll talk to you next episode.